What if I told you that the ID you've been using to travel your whole life might suddenly stop working, without warning, without a big announcement? And right when you're standing in line at the airport, bags packed, ticket paid for, heart racing, because starting very soon, travel as you know it is quietly changing in a way most people still don't understand. And that question alone should already make you nervous. Because this new travel ID requirement isn't loud, it isn't dramatic, and it isn't being explained clearly. But it's real, and it's rolling out faster than most travelers expect. And the scariest part is that millions of people will only realize it matters when it's already too late, when an agent looks at their ID, pauses for just a second too long, and says the words no traveler ever wants to hear, "I'm sorry. This won't work." And that moment, that tiny moment, is exactly why you need to hear this now. Because this isn't just another travel rule. It's a shift, a reset, a quiet upgrade to how governments see you when you move from one place to another. And unlike old changes where you had years to adapt, this one is sneaking in under the radar, hiding behind words like enhanced security and streamlined verification. Phrases that sound harmless but carry massive consequences for everyday travelers, especially people who think they're prepared, because that's the trap. The people who assume they're fine are usually the ones who get caught off guard. And imagine this for a second. You arrive early, you did everything right. You even feel proud of yourself, but then the system doesn't recognize your ID the way it used to. Not because it's fake, not because it's expired, but because it's no longer enough, and suddenly your entire trip hangs on a rule you never heard explained properly. And this new requirement isn't just about airports either. It's about how your identity is verified across borders, across systems, across databases that don't talk the way they used to. And while officials say it's about safety, insiders know it's about control, efficiency, and tracking movement more precisely than ever before. And here's where it gets uncomfortable, because this change doesn't hit everyone equally. Frequent travelers feel it first. Older IDs fail faster. Certain states and regions lag behind. And people who renew last minute get trapped in delays that feel endless. And the worst part is the confusion, because online sources contradict each other. Airlines explain it one way, government sites explain it another, and social media spreads half-truths that leave travelers panicking or ignoring the issue completely, both of which are dangerous because panic makes mistakes and ignoring it guarantees them. And let me tell you something that most travel channels won't say out loud. This new travel ID requirement isn't designed for convenience, it's designed for systems, not humans. Which means if your information doesn't line up perfectly across every database, you're the problem, not the system. And that's a harsh reality when you're standing at a counter with a line forming behind you. And here's where the real tension begins, because this change is happening in phases. Quiet phases, test phases, and soft enforcement phases. And during those phases, some people get waved through while others get stopped. And nobody explains why, which creates stories. Horror stories, missed weddings, canceled business deals, family emergencies turned into logistical nightmares. All because a new requirement existed but wasn't understood. And think about how unfair that feels, because travel used to be about planning and money. Now it's about compliance. About whether your identity fits a new digital standard that most people never voted on or fully agreed to. And while officials promise smoother travel in the future, the present is messy, glitchy, and unforgiving. And what makes this even more frustrating is that many travelers technically qualify but still fail because of tiny inconsistencies. A middle name spelled differently, an old address still attached to your profile, a system update that didn't sync correctly, and those are the details no one warns you about, because they don't sound exciting, but they matter more than your suitcase or your seat assignment ever will. And here's something else that should grab your attention. This new requirement doesn't always announce itself clearly. Sometimes it shows up as a recommendation, sometimes as a warning, sometimes as a vague notice you scroll past while booking a ticket, and that's intentional, because gradual change meets less resistance. But for travelers, gradual confusion causes maximum damage, and I've seen people argue at counters saying, "But I flew last year with this," not realizing that last year no longer counts, because travel rules don't respect your memory. They respect the current system, and that system updates quietly overnight. sometimes without public explanation. And if you're thinking this only applies to international travel, that assumption could cost you a flight, because domestic and international standards are starting to overlap, blur, and merge. And what used to be separate worlds are becoming one unified verification process. And that's where people get blindsided, because they prepare for one type of trip and get hit by rules from another. And here's the emotional part nobody talks about. Travel is personal. It's vacations, funerals, reunions, once-in-a-lifetime moments, and when an ID issue blocks that, it doesn't feel like policy. It feels like punishment, and no agent behind a desk can fix it for you in that moment. Because they don't control the system, they just enforce it. And that feeling of helplessness is what turns a simple rule change into a life-altering mistake. And this is exactly why smart travelers are adjusting now, quietly, calmly, before enforcement becomes strict and unforgiving. Because once full enforcement starts, grace disappears. And that's how these transitions always work. First warnings, then inconsistency, then zero tolerance, and by the time everyone is talking about it loudly, the window to prepare has already closed, and that's why you're hearing this now, not later, because the goal isn't fear, it's awareness. The kind that keeps you moving while others are stuck rebooking flights and making frantic phone calls. And I want you to understand something clearly. This isn't about upgrading for luxury. It's about upgrading for survival in modern travel. Because the rules don't pause for your plans, and systems don't care about excuses. And while some people will call this overblown, those are usually the same people who thought passport delays were exaggerated until they waited 6 months, and history repeats itself in travel more than anywhere else. And right now, history is whispering before it starts screaming. And the travelers who listen early are the ones who move smoothly, while everyone else wonders what went wrong. And here's the truth that ties this all together. The new travel ID requirement is less about what you carry and more about how you exist in the system. And that's a shift most people aren't mentally prepared for. Because you can't argue with an algorithm, you can't charm a database, and you can't explain urgency to a computer. And that's why preparation isn't optional anymore. It's the difference between moving forward and being left behind. And if there's one thing I want you to remember after this, it's this. The biggest travel mistakes aren't made at the airport. They're made months before, when people assume nothing has changed. And right now, something big has changed, quietly, deliberately, and permanently. And the travelers who adapt early will barely notice it, while everyone else will feel it all at once, painfully, publicly, and at the worst possible time. And that's why knowing about this now doesn't just save time, it saves moments, memories, and plans that can't be easily replaced, because in modern travel, being informed isn't just smart anymore, it's essential.